I still remember the first day Ava Morgan walked into my office. There are some moments in life that don't feel important at first, but later you realize that was the exact second everything changed. She didn't rush in. She didn't smile nervously like most new clients do. She walked in like she owned the building, confident, composed, sharp. She placed her designer purse carefully on the chair across from my desk and crossed her legs with effortless elegance. "I just want to make one thing clear," she said calmly. "We're just friends. I don't mix business with feelings." I almost smiled. In my line of work, as a personal fitness coach in downtown Chicago, I'd heard that before. Successful clients like structure, boundaries, control. And Ava? She was control. She ran one of the fastest growing marketing agencies in the city. Her schedule was color-coded. Her calendar packed weeks in advance. Even her posture screamed discipline. "I'm here to work," she added. That's it. And that's exactly what I gave her. Our sessions started at 6 a.m. sharp. No excuses. No small talk. Just focus. The first few days were strictly professional. Squats. Cardio. Core strength. Form corrections. Timers beeping. Water breaks measured. But something about her energy felt different. Most clients talk too much or complain too often. Ava didn't. She listened. She pushed harder than anyone I'd trained that year. And when she struggled, she didn't blame the workout, she blamed herself. Again, she'd say. And we'd go again. A week passed. Then 2. Then 3. The silence between sets slowly started filling with conversation. It started small. "So, how long have you been training clients? Ever think about opening your own studio?" She asked questions with curiosity, not politeness. One morning, while stretching after a brutal leg session, she looked at me and asked, "Why didn't you get married?" The question caught me off guard. I hesitated. "Wrong timing," I finally said. "Wrong expectations." She studied my face longer than necessary. "Sometimes timing isn't wrong," she said softly. "Sometimes people are." That was the first crack in the professional wall. After that, she started staying a little longer after sessions. Not long enough to be inappropriate. Just long enough to blur the line. We'd sit on the benches, talking about business stress, life regrets, missed opportunities. She laughed more around me than she probably meant to. And I started looking forward to 6 a.m. more than I should have. But then, Eric showed up. The first time I saw him, it was after an evening session. Ava had mentioned someone picking her up. "He's just a friend," she said casually while checking her phone. Just a friend. That phrase sounded simple. Harmless. Until the gym doors opened. Eric walked in wearing a tailored navy suit, polished shoes, the kind of confidence that doesn't ask permission to enter a room. He didn't look like just a friend. He walked straight toward her and placed his hand on her waist naturally, like it belonged there. She didn't pull away. "Hey," he said warmly, leaning in to kiss her cheek. Then he turned to me. "You must be the famous trainer," he said, extending his hand firmly. His grip was strong. "Testing." I kept my tone neutral. "Good to meet you." Ava grabbed her bag quickly. "We're heading out," she said. And as they walked away, I noticed something strange. She looked back. Not at the building. At me. That night, I told myself I was overthinking. She was a client. He was just a friend. End of story. But things don't stay simple when emotions get involved. Over the next few sessions, I noticed subtle changes. She checked her phone more often. Sometimes she smiled at messages. Sometimes she sighed. One morning, she seemed distracted. "Tough night?" I asked casually. She shrugged. "Eric thinks I work too much." I adjusted the weights. "Do you?" She paused. I think he doesn't understand what I'm building. And do I? I asked before I could stop myself. Her eyes met mine. Yes, she said without hesitation. That word stayed with me all day. Yes. The more we talked, the clearer it became that something between them wasn't as perfect as it looked. But she never defined it. Never clarified. We're just friends. Until the night everything shifted. It was raining hard outside. The gym was nearly empty. Just the hum of machines and distant thunder rolling across the city skyline. She finished her final set and sat down, breathing heavily. I handed her a towel. Our fingers brushed. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't planned. But neither of us pulled away immediately. For a split second, the air changed. The rain outside grew louder. Then her phone buzzed. Eric. She glanced at the screen and stepped away to answer. Her voice changed instantly, lighter, controlled. Yes, we're finishing now. No, he's just my trainer. Just my trainer. I didn't know why that phrase bothered me more than before. Maybe because I wasn't sure it was true anymore. After she hung up, there was silence between us. Heavy silence. I should go, she said. At the door, she paused. You're easy to talk to, she added quietly. That's my job, I replied, trying to sound unaffected. She smiled faintly. No, she said. That's not your job. And then she left. I stood there long after the door closed, listening to the rain. That was the moment I realized something dangerous. This wasn't just business anymore. It wasn't attraction. It wasn't fantasy. It was emotional. And emotional lines are harder to erase than physical ones. If you're enjoying this story so far, make sure you hit that like button right now. It really helps this channel grow and lets me know you want more intense romantic stories like this. And tell me in the comments, do you think she and Eric are really just friends, or is something bigger happening here? I read every single comment. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for daily new romantic stories filled with tension, twists, and real emotion. Because trust me, this story? It's just getting started. The next chapter will change everything. And once that line gets crossed, there's no going back. There's a dangerous space between professional and personal. It doesn't happen all at once. It builds slowly, quietly, like tension before a storm. After that rainy night, something shifted between us. Not visibly. Not in a way anyone else would notice. But I felt it. Ava started texting me outside our scheduled sessions. At first, it was harmless. Can we move tomorrow's session to 7 a.m.? Do you think I should increase my protein intake? Normal trainer-client stuff. Then the messages changed. Eric says I'm obsessed with work. Am I? You ever feel like you're outgrowing someone? And one night? I trust you more than anyone right now. That message stayed on my screen longer than it should have. I didn't respond immediately. Because I knew the truth, once emotional trust enters the picture, the line gets blurry. And blurred lines lead to complicated endings. The next morning, she arrived earlier than usual. No makeup. Hair loosely tied back. Wearing a fitted half-length athletic top and high-waisted leggings, simple, effortless, but somehow more real than the polished businesswoman version of her. You didn't answer my text, she said lightly while placing her water bottle down. I kept my tone steady. I didn't know how to. She looked at me carefully. Honest answer, she said. I like that. We started training. But the focus wasn't the same. Her form slipped more than usual. Her mind wasn't in it. After her final set, she sat on the bench and stared at the floor. Eric and I had dinner last night, she said. I didn't ask, but she continued anyway. He thinks you're getting too much of my time. There it was. I exhaled slowly. He might not be wrong. She looked up immediately. So what? I shouldn't train. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Her tone wasn't angry. It was searching. I chose my words carefully. If he feels threatened, that means something. And what does that mean? She pressed. It means he cares, I said. She stood up abruptly. Or it means he's insecure. The room went quiet. There's a difference between defending someone and defending your feelings. And I wasn't sure which one she was doing. A few days later, she invited me to something unexpected. There's a networking event this Saturday, she said casually while stretching. My company's hosting. You should come. I hesitated. That doesn't sound like a good idea. Why not? Because that's your world, I replied. And I'm your trainer. She stepped closer. You're more than that. The words landed heavy between us. Saturday came anyway. And against my better judgment, I went. The venue was a rooftop lounge overlooking the Chicago skyline. City lights reflecting off glass buildings. Music low and elegant. Business elite sipping cocktails and talking deals. Ava looked different that night. Not Jim Ava. Not stressed CEO Ava. She wore a sleek half-blouse evening dress paired with a high-waisted tailored skirt, bold but refined. Confident but effortless. When she saw me, her smile was real. You came, she said. You invited me. She introduced me as someone important. Not my trainer. Not a friend. Just important. Eric arrived 30 minutes later. And the air changed instantly. He walked over confidently, greeting people like he owned the place. When he reached us, he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I didn't know this was open invite, he said lightly. Ava didn't flinch. It is. Eric turned to me. So you train her and attend her events? His tone was calm. But underneath it? Territory. I kept it respectful. She invited me. Ava crossed her arms. Eric, don't. He held up his hands. Relax. I'm just making conversation. But he wasn't. The rest of the evening felt like a silent competition. Every time Ava laughed at something I said, Eric's jaw tightened. Every time Eric placed his hand on her back, she subtly shifted away. And then it happened. A man from another company approached Ava, congratulating her on her latest campaign. He leaned in slightly, too close for comfort. Before I could even react, Eric stepped forward and placed a firm hand on the man's shoulder. She's taken, Eric said. The room went quiet for a second. Ava slowly turned to him. Excuse me. Eric smiled stiffly. Just protecting what's mine. And that's when something inside her snapped. I'm not yours, she said clearly. Not loud. But clear enough. I saw it then. This wasn't about jealousy over a trainer. This was about control. The rest of the night unraveled quickly. They argued quietly near the edge of the rooftop. Voices tense. Gestures sharp. I stayed back. Because no matter how strong emotions get, you don't interfere in someone else's relationship. Eventually, Eric left. No dramatic goodbye. Just frustration and pride. Ava stood alone by the railing, city lights glowing behind her. I walked over slowly. You okay? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, why does it feel easier with you? That question wasn't safe. It shouldn't, I replied honestly. She turned toward me, eyes reflecting the skyline. But it does. There are moments in life where you can step back. Or step forward. And both choices change everything. I took a step back. Ava, I said quietly, you need to figure out what you want. Not what feels easy. She searched my face, maybe hoping I'd say something different. But I didn't. Because if I stepped forward in that moment, there would be no going back. If you're feeling the tension building right now, make sure you hit that like button. And tell me in the comments, do you think Eric is insecure, or does he have a reason to worry? And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for daily emotional romantic stories just like this one. Because in the next chapter, everything explodes. And when feelings are forced into the open, someone always gets hurt. Stay with me. Chapter 3 is where the line finally breaks. There's a moment in every complicated story when silence is no longer an option. After the rooftop incident, Ava didn't text for 2 days. No schedule changes. No late-night questions. Nothing. And I told myself that was a good thing. Distance creates clarity. Or at least, that's what I hoped. Then Thursday morning at 6 a.m., she walked into the gym like nothing had happened. But everything had. She wasn't dressed like the sharp CEO or the polished event host. She wore a simple fitted training top, high-waisted leggings, hair pulled back tight, no makeup, no armor. Just Ava. "You're quiet," she said as she adjusted the treadmill speed. "So are you," I replied. "We didn't mention Eric. We didn't mention the rooftop. We just trained. Harder than usual. Sweat. Controlled breathing. The rhythm of weights hitting racks. Physical effort is a great distraction from emotional chaos." Halfway through her strength circuit, she lost balance slightly during a heavy lift. Instinctively, I stepped behind her. One hand near her shoulder. One near her waist. Professional. Necessary. "Core tight," I said calmly. "You've got it." She steadied. But she didn't move away when the set ended. Our breathing was close. Too close. The gym was busy that morning, more crowded than usual. And that's when the doors opened. Eric walked in. Unannounced. Uninvited. His eyes scanned the room until they landed on us. I stepped back immediately. But it was too late. He had seen enough. He walked toward us slowly, controlled but intense. "Didn't know this was a public show," he said under his breath. Ava stiffened. "What are you doing here?" "Checking in," he replied. "You've been distant." I kept my voice neutral. "We're in the middle of a session." Eric looked at me like I was something disposable. "I'm talking to her." And then it happened. As Ava moved to grab her towel, I lightly touched her arm, just to guide her around a bench in the crowded space. Eric saw it. And he snapped. He stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. Not violently. But firmly. "Get your hands off her." The music in the gym kept playing. But the world around us slowed down. Before I could respond, Ava turned. And her voice cut through everything. "Get your hands off him." Loud. Sharp. Clear. The gym went silent. Every head turned. Eric released my wrist immediately, stunned. "What?" he said, confused. "You don't touch him," she said, stepping between us. The words hung in the air heavier than anything else that morning. Not, "Don't touch me." Not, "Calm down." But him. Me. I saw it in Eric's face, the realization hitting him all at once. This wasn't jealousy over a trainer. This was something deeper. "You're defending him?" Eric asked slowly. "I'm defending respect," she replied. But even she didn't sound convinced by that answer. I stepped back, creating distance. "Ava," I said quietly, "we should pause the session." She didn't take her eyes off Eric. "No," she said firmly. "We're finishing." Eric laughed once, bitter. "You choosing this?" "It's not about choosing," she snapped. "It's about not being controlled." The argument escalated fast. Whispers started in the gym. Phones subtly lifted. The last thing I wanted was a public scene. "Take it outside," I said calmly. Eric looked at me. "You stay out of this." I almost responded. But Ava beat me to it. He's already in this, she said. And that was the truth none of us wanted to say out loud. They moved toward the lobby. Voices raised. Emotions raw. I stayed back. Because no matter what feelings were building between us, you don't interfere when a relationship is collapsing in real time. Minutes later, the front doors slammed shut. Eric was gone. Ava stood just outside the glass entrance, shoulders tense, breathing uneven. I walked out slowly. You okay? She laughed, but it wasn't humor. I just ended it. The words felt unreal. What? He said if I walk back in there with you, we're done. She looked at me directly. And I walked back in. There it was. The breaking point. Why? I asked quietly. Her answer came without hesitation. Because I'm tired of shrinking myself to make someone else comfortable. That wasn't about the gym. That wasn't about a workout. That was about months, maybe years, of something unbalanced. But then her expression softened. And because when he grabbed you, something in me reacted before I could think. Silence wrapped around us. You shouldn't have to defend me, I said. I know, she replied. But I wanted to. And that's when it became real. This wasn't flirtation. This wasn't curiosity. This was emotional alignment. Dangerous. Powerful alignment. We stood there, city noise humming around us. Are you sure? I asked. About what? Ending it. She looked back toward the street where Eric had disappeared. Yes, she said. I've known for a while. Today just forced it. There's something about forced honesty. It hurts. But it clears the fog. We walked back inside. The gym slowly returned to normal. But nothing felt normal anymore. The space between us felt charged. Unspoken. She grabbed her bag. I need a few days, she said. That's smart. She stepped closer. Don't disappear, she added softly. I won't. She nodded once, then left. And as the doors closed behind her, I realized something heavy. The line wasn't blurred anymore. It was broken. And when lines break, you can either rebuild them or cross them completely. If you felt that moment, if you could hear that silence in the gym, hit the like button right now. And tell me in the comments, did she make the right choice walking back inside? Or did she let emotions take control? And if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications for daily romantic stories filled with real tension, real choices, and real consequences. Because in Chapter 4, the emotions settle. The truth comes out. And the hardest decision of all is still waiting. When something ends suddenly, the silence afterward feels louder than the argument itself. After that morning in the gym, Ava disappeared for 3 days. No texts. No rescheduled sessions. No, good morning. And I didn't reach out. Not because I didn't want to. But because she needed space, and so did I. When a relationship ends, even a complicated one, emotions don't just switch off. They echo. They question. They replay every moment like a slow-motion film. On the 4th night, my phone lit up. Ava. I stared at the screen for a full 5 seconds before answering. Hey. Her voice was softer than usual. Hey, I replied. A pause. I didn't handle that well, she said. You handled it honestly. She exhaled slowly. Eric came by my apartment today. That tightened something in my chest. To talk. To ask if I was serious. And? I told him yes. The word landed heavy. Not dramatic. Not explosive. Just final. There's something powerful about calm endings. They don't scream, they settle. How do you feel? I asked carefully. Like I just stepped off a moving train, she admitted. Relieved, but unsteady. That image stayed with me. Relief and instability at the same time. That's normal, I said. You were with him a long time. Almost 2 years, she replied quietly. 2 years. That's not casual. That's history. We stayed on the phone longer than we planned. Talking about everything except us. Her childhood in Boston. My first failed business attempt. The fear of starting over. And then. The silence shifted. Not awkward. Anticipating. Ava, I said slowly, we need to talk about something. I know, she replied immediately. Another pause. I don't want to be your rebound, I continued. Her voice sharpened slightly. You're not. I don't want to be the reason you left. You're not, she repeated, firmer this time. Then what am I? The question lingered. Finally, she answered. Your clarity. That wasn't flirtation. That wasn't impulse. That was awareness. The next afternoon, she came to the gym. Not for a session. Just to talk. The place was quiet, mid-afternoon lull. Sunlight streaming through tall windows, reflecting off polished floors. She walked in wearing a simple half-length blouse paired with high-waisted trousers. Effortlessly confident. But her eyes carried something new. Vulnerability. Can we sit? She asked. We moved to the far corner, away from the machines. I've been honest with myself these past few days, she began. And I realized something uncomfortable. I waited. I was emotionally leaving that relationship long before the rooftop. That wasn't easy for her to admit. Why stay? I asked gently. Because starting over at 32 feels terrifying. Honesty like that is rare. And because Eric was safe, she continued. Predictable. Stable. And I'm not. I asked, half teasing. She looked at me directly. Your risk? The word hung between us. Risk? There's something intoxicating about being someone's risk. But it's also dangerous. Ava, I said carefully, attraction under pressure can feel bigger than it is. She nodded slowly. I've thought about that. And this doesn't feel like pressure. She leaned back slightly, studying me. It feels like alignment. That word again. Alignment. When you talk about your goals, I don't feel threatened, she said. I feel inspired. When I push you in training, you don't shrink, I replied. You rise. We weren't flirting. We were evaluating. There's a difference. I don't want to rush this, she added. Good. I don't want whispers at the gym. Then we don't give them anything to whisper about. She smiled faintly. What are you suggesting? You switch trainers. Her eyebrows lifted. Seriously? Yes. If this becomes something real, I continued, it needs a clean start. No blurred lines. No professional complications. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she smiled fully for the first time in days. That's why you're dangerous. Why? Because you think long term. The next week, she officially switched to another trainer in the facility. No drama. No explanation beyond schedule change. But the space between us shifted completely. We weren't trainer and client anymore. We were undefined. One evening, she invited me to see something. Come by, she texted. I want your opinion. Her apartment overlooked the river, modern, minimal, elegant. When she opened the door, she wasn't dressed for business or the gym. She wore a relaxed half-blouse top and soft lounge pants, barefoot, natural. Real. This feels different, I said as I stepped inside. It is. She walked me to the spare room. Empty walls. Rolled up blueprints on the floor. I'm expanding, she said. Second office location. That's huge. I was scared to do it before, she admitted. Why? She looked at me. Because Eric said it was too aggressive. And there it was. Control disguised as caution. And what do you think? I asked. I think I'm done shrinking. We stood there in that empty room, potential echoing off bare walls. This is what alignment feels like, she said quietly. Not adrenaline. Not jealousy. Not rebellion. Growth. I stepped closer, slowly. Close enough to feel warmth, but not touching. Ava, I said softly, once we cross this line, there's no going back to simple. I don't want simple, she replied. Her honesty was steady now. Grounded. No chaos. No emotional storm. Just intention. The tension wasn't explosive. It was controlled. Like a match held near a flame, waiting for permission. She reached out first this time. Not to grab. Not to cling. Just to rest her hand lightly against mine. No rush. No fear. Just connection. If you're feeling this shift right now, the calm before something real, hit that like button. And tell me in the comments. Do you think they're ready to cross that final line? Or should they wait longer? And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications for daily romantic stories filled with real emotion, real choices, and powerful turning points. Because in Chapter 5, the line isn't just crossed. It's chosen. And sometimes the strongest love stories don't start with chaos. They start with clarity. There's a difference between falling into something and choosing it. For weeks after that night in her apartment, Ava and I moved carefully. Not distant. Not cold. Just intentional. She trained with someone else now. I kept my schedule focused. We didn't linger at the gym. We didn't invite speculation. But outside of that space, everything felt different. We started slow. Coffee first. Neutral ground. A small cafe by the river where nobody knew us. No business suits. No gym clothes. Just two people figuring out what honesty looks like when there's nothing left to hide. I keep waiting for it to feel reckless, she admitted, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. And? I asked. It doesn't. That was the thing. There was no chaos anymore. No Eric showing up unannounced. No tension-filled rooftop arguments. No possessive confrontations. Just quiet. Steady. Intentional connection. A few nights later, she came to see the space I'd been working on. My studio. It wasn't finished yet. Fresh paint still drying. Equipment partially assembled. Mirrors leaning against the wall waiting to be mounted. But it was mine. She stepped inside slowly, taking it all in. You did this? She asked softly. Not fully yet, I said. Still building. She walked across the open floor, heels echoing lightly. I love it, she said. You're biased. She shook her head. No. I love what it represents. What's that? She turned to face me. Courage. The word hit deeper than she probably realized. Because for years, I'd trained other people to build strength while putting my own bigger dreams on hold. And standing there with her in that unfinished room, I realized something. We weren't just building a relationship. We were building versions of ourselves that weren't afraid anymore. She moved closer. Not rushed. Not hesitant. Just sure. You know what scares me? She asked quietly. What? That this feels healthy. I smiled slightly. Healthy shouldn't be scary. It is when you're used to proving yourself all the time. That was it. In her past relationship, she fought to be understood. With me? She didn't have to. I stepped closer, slowly, giving her space to change her mind. She didn't. Her hand rested lightly against my chest. You said once, she murmured, that once we crossed this line, there's no going back. I remember. Good, she whispered. And then she leaned in. The kiss wasn't rushed. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't built on jealousy or adrenaline. It was steady. Warm. Intentional. The kind of kiss that says, I choose this. When we pulled back, neither of us looked shocked. No dramatic gasps. No regret. Just quiet understanding. This isn't a rebound, she said softly. I know. This isn't rebellion. I know. This is me not shrinking anymore. And that right there. That was the moment everything aligned. Weeks passed. And instead of burning fast and fading, what we built grew stronger. We set boundaries. Clear ones. No mixing professional decisions with personal emotions. No favoritism at the gym. No public displays that would complicate our reputations. We chose maturity over impulse. And that's what made it powerful. One evening, sitting on the rooftop of her apartment building, the Chicago skyline glowing around us, she rested her head against my shoulder. Eric texted me, she said casually. My body tensed slightly. And? He said he hopes I'm happy. Are you? She didn't hesitate. Yes. There was no bitterness in her voice. No guilt. Just peace. I don't hate him, she continued. We just wanted different versions of each other. That happens, I said. She tilted her head up slightly. With you? I don't feel like I have to tone myself down. You don't? I don't feel too ambitious. You're not? I don't feel dramatic. You're passionate. She smiled softly. That's the difference. And that's when I understood something important. Love isn't about possession. It's about permission. Permission to grow. Permission to take risks. Permission to be fully yourself without someone tightening their grip when you do. Looking back at that morning in the gym, the moment she shouted, "Get your hands off him," it wasn't just about defending me. It was about defending who she was becoming. And sometimes the loudest reactions come from the quietest realizations. Months later, my studio officially opened. Grand opening night was simple but meaningful. Friends. Clients. Supporters. Ava stood beside me, not in the spotlight, but never hiding. Someone asked her how we met. She smiled slightly. We started as just friends, she said. I raised an eyebrow. She laughed. Okay, maybe not just friends. The truth? We were two people pretending not to see what was right in front of us. Until pretending became impossible. If you've ever been in a situation where something felt right, but complicated, you understand this story. Sometimes the line isn't there to keep you apart. Sometimes it's there to test whether you're brave enough to cross it the right way. And we didn't cross it out of jealousy. Or loneliness. Or rebellion. We crossed it with clarity. And that's why it lasted. If this story moved you, if you felt the tension, the growth, the choice, hit that like button right now. Comment below. Do you think they handled it the right way? Or would you have walked away completely? I read every single comment. And if you want more daily romantic stories filled with real emotion, real tension, and powerful turning points, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the best love stories aren't the loudest ones. They are the ones built on courage. And this one was chosen.